and breathe. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Planet Soccer channel here on YouTube. Today, we are talking about UCL Matchday 2 in the 2023-2024 Champions League.
Vamos!
Dylan just absolutely clipped his audio. That was very loud. But his excitement is palpable. That's because the day did see Newcastle take control of the group of fun amongst many other happenings across the Champions League. Today, we're going to talk about it in a new format called UCL International Headlines. We started doing a new format with our Premier League episodes. We really like it with the buy or sell. Today, we're going to come up with some witty headlines from across the Champions League, talk about them, and then kind of go off of that. So we hope you guys like it. We hope it's fun. Dylan, any initial thoughts before we get going with the first international headline out of Turkey?
Champions League is awesome. That's all I got for you. Man, I love Champions League, even more so this year. But yeah, it's something else. Unfortunately, I've been super busy at work this week, so didn't get to watch very much in-depth viewing. There wasn't a whole lot of in-depth viewing for me, but still, it was a pretty fun week. Yesterday was wild with upsets, and today, kind of an upset as well. So yeah, excited to jump in.
Let's go ahead and get started. First headline we've got for you is Turkish Delight. Galatasaray sink Man United 3-2 at Old Trafford. It's the first ever back-to-back losses for Man United at home in the Champions League. And since the start of last season, Andre Onana has more clean sheets than any other keeper in the Champions League, but he's also given up 3 or more goals more than anybody else in the Champions League. So very much a yin and yang effort from him. He's looked much more yang. I don't really know which is the negative, yin or yang, but he's looked a lot worse than he has good this year. Dylan, did you get to watch this game? What did you see? It was just a satisfying game for us to watch.
It was incredibly satisfying. I've really tried to somewhat get away from just bashing on United and Chelsea, but it's just so easy sometimes.
We're not even going out of our way to do it. I mean, we're not going out of our way.
Really not. Like I'm trying to avoid it, but like we got to talk about it.
Yeah.
One thing that I was overall just super impressed with from Galatasaray was how quickly they responded, and likewise how poorly Man United responded to having leads. I think both times Man U scored within 5 minutes. Galatasaray tied it back up.
Yeah.
And then Icardi missing the whole frame on his penalty, but then coming through and scoring in the 80th or 81st minute. It was pretty awesome. Casemiro, another red card. I believe he had never had a red card in his career before going to Manchester United, and now he's got like 3 or 4, what seems like a million. It seems like you turn around and he's getting a red card. So it was kind of more of the same from United, and I don't even know if they're for sure going to be playing European football come the first of the year, which is kind of wild.
It is, yeah. You mentioned the responses from Galatasaray. You had a 17th minute Rasmus Højlund goal, a 23rd minute Wilfried Zaha goal as a response, 67th minute Højlund goal, and then a 71st minute Galatasaray goal, and then Icardi with the winner in the 81st. So this is a game that Man United didn't even really dominate. I mean, Galatasaray, they had more XG. They were with them the whole time. Possession was slightly in Man United's favor, but really just a convincing performance with Man United being poor and Galatasaray taking advantage of those mistakes. So Galatasaray has taken over the second place spot in that Group A.
Yeah, and with this kind of leading into our next one, with the results of the other match in this group, I'm not so sure Man U is like for sure going to be going out and beating Copenhagen by any means.
Yeah, next headline is with the Copenhagen Bayern game, and it is Bayern almost gets caught playing with their food. Bayern survived a scare 2-1 in the Danish capital versus SC Copenhagen. Bayern came into the matchup with a coefficient ranking of second in the world. Copenhagen was 77th. So it was a mismatch on paper. However, Bayern didn't even have 1 XG in this game. They didn't dominate it by any means. We talked about them surviving. It really did feel like they survived. Jamal Musiala with a fantastic individual effort goal. And Harry Kane with only 1 PK goal and and 1 open play assist in 2 matches in the Champions League. So they definitely paid for him to do more than that. We'll see if he steps up and starts getting on the score sheet a little bit more. But I didn't watch this game really at all. But just looking at the stats, it's one that was surprisingly evenly matched. I mean, Bayern, like we said, with a 0.88 XG, Copenhagen had 0.87, so they were right there. Bayern dominated possession. Didn't dominate. They had 58%. So even total shots, 15-11. So Bayern really messed around in this one and almost found out.
Yeah, we were joking. We both had Golasso on yesterday, and we were joking that at halftime, when halftime hit, I don't think I saw 1 minute of this game.
They hadn't flashed to it at all.
And then shortly after that, it was real early in the second half. We saw the Copenhagen goal, and it started to feel like there was a chance. And even after that goal, like you said, it wasn't like a fluky goal. Like it wasn't a dominant 2-1 performance. Like they were still getting chances deep into stoppage time even. Again, I didn't watch the game in its entirety, but it seemed to be a lot more entertaining than most people would have bargained for. This felt like just throw it in your parlay, it's going to hit, boost the odds a little bit type of thing, and people were sweating it out down the end. But I think it will tell us, or I think it tells me for sure that Man United is not guaranteed to advance out of this group or even make Europa at this point.
Yeah. Copenhagen will definitely be an interesting matchup for them. So moving on to another Bundesliga team, we've got the headline from Berlin without love. Union Berlin suffers another heartbreaking defeat late, this time to SC Braga. They led Braga 2-0 before Siku Nikate put one back for Braga just before half. And then Bruma equalized with a stunning finish from range. And then obviously the winner down in the bottom corner from Andre Casto was the winner for Braga in the 94th minute. So I don't really have a whole lot to say about this one other than Union Berlin, the darling newcomer of the Champions League, has really suffered 2 late heartbreaks. Shout out to Geraldo Becker, who made history becoming Union Berlin's first ever UCL goal scorer. And really just a tough defeat for Union Berlin in this one.
Yeah, my only other piece to add is, by all accounts, the 15 minutes or whatever that Brendan Aronson played, he looked pretty poor once again. He's looked pretty shaky a couple of times for Union Berlin when I've caught it or seen match commentary from people on Twitter afterwards. Wasn't in long, was in when the winner was scored, and his match rating was a 6.1. So not the most promising start to his spell at Union Berlin. We'll jump into that a little bit more later in the week when we do our Americans Abroad.
We've got a third episode of the week coming out later.
I always like to at least check in on our Americans, and it does not look like this went well for him.
Good call. We do have a USMNT September update coming out later this week that covers the previous month. Before we move on, make sure you guys like and subscribe to our channel. It helps us out a lot. It's easy for y'all. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button. We'd really appreciate it. Moving on, probably my favorite headline of the week is England's Arsenal stunned south of Dunkirk. Arsenal gets caught with their pants down in the northeast of France. Lynn, I think the S is silent. Lynn 1 or Lynn 2, sure. Arsenal 1. Lynn came into this match 15th in Ligue 1. That's, I believe, Ligue 1 has like 18 or 19. They're one spot off relegation, so that 16th spot would be relegation for them. Arsenal dominated possession, as you would expect, but they didn't really dominate this game. Saka's assist for Gabriel Jesus, made him the first player in Europe's top 5 leagues with 5 goals and 5 assists this season. But it came with the unfortunate injury about 30 minutes in. Arteta said it's not looking good, so that could be absolutely detrimental for Arsenal's season as a whole, depending on how many games he has to miss, because they're already missing Martinelli over on the other side. There are injuries galore for Arsenal right now, so this game, the result and the injury, just led to a pretty bad Tuesday for Arsenal fans.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Saka went into the weekend with a little naggle,
Yeah, I
whatever you
didn't
want to
really
call it.
expect him to play against Bournemouth, I
Yeah,
think
and
it was.
yeah, and then he re-aggravates it early in this one. I think that's definitely something to watch out for. Something similar kind of happened to Joel Linton on the weekend,
Mm.
but I think it's gonna have huge league impacts. I mean, they got City up next on this weekend, so yeah, not looking super promising. I know they've kind of Emil Smith Rowe has kind of fallen out of favor there too, so I don't really know
Yeah.
where they necessarily turned. They did strengthen their depth a little bit this year, but missing out on Martinelli and Saka against City is going to be catastrophic, possibly for
Yeah, I
them.
mean, most of the depth they've signed has been hurt, and then the other one that they added is Kai Havertz, who just hasn't been performing. Although I believe he did score in this one, right?
Yeah,
I think
I don't know if he scored in this one.
I
I know
think
he
he
scored
scored.
over the weekend. I don't.
That might have been it. That might have been
No,
it.
Jesus. We just said
That's
Jesus
right.
had the
Jesus
goal.
scored. Yeah,
Duh.
Havertz, I think, scored over the weekend.
He scored a penalty. Yeah, he scored a penalty over the weekend.
Yeah.
It was like a sympathy penalty. It was they were already up 3-0.
Yeah.
They're like, all right, let's go get this guy a goal for his confidence. Somebody said it was a make a wish goal.
Oh man,
Poor guy.
that's rough. Yeah, worth keeping an eye on Arsenal. They're the heavy favorites in this group, but this loss, I mean, not even a draw is straight up loss. I do think they'll definitely still get through, but this was not good for them in any ways. Next headline, we're moving out of the Premier League, and it's the stars shine bright in the Naples sky. Bellingham and Vinicius led the Galacticos to victory in the shadow of Maradona. Madrid hasn't looked convincing in this year's Champions League, but they're Real Madrid. And Dylan, we've texted back and forth about DNA and whether it's franchises or
Yep.
schools and college sports or clubs in England, and Real Madrid's Champions League DNA is just second to none. They're going to figure it out. They haven't looked convincing in their groups in the past couple Champions Leagues. I know they didn't look convincing in their group when they won it 2 years ago, but they're getting the job done. And this was the Group C matchup that everybody really had circled, especially for Madrid away from home, going to the other favorite to advance out of the group, Napoli. The matchup didn't disappoint, or the game didn't disappoint by any means. A 3-2 win for Real Madrid. Valverde's screamer for the win. Technically an own goal, but a really, really bright strike from way outside the box for Valverde. It hit the top of the goal, or it hit the crossbar, and then like bounced off the neck of the goalkeeper or something like that. So, yeah, it was a good strike.
Yeah, that's a rough own goal to give. That's a
Right.
rough. I feel bad for anybody who's playing fantasy Champions League and gets knocked with an extra negative on that, because that was rough. That was just a great shot. The other thing that stuck out to me on this one though was Osimhen kind of struggling again. He had quite a bit of struggles for most of the early month of September. Seemed like he kind of turned it around, albeit against two lesser sides. But only 2 successful dribbles. Missed a pretty glaring opportunity. I believe it was in the first half. Just kind of a pretty quiet stinker. Now, that being said, it is against Real Madrid. Fantastic team. Fantastic manager. Ancelotti can shut somebody down at will with tactics at times. So maybe not a huge concern, but because of the issues he kind of had early in September, it's definitely something to keep an eye on. Jude Bellingham had another just phenomenal game. He's the best midfielder in the world by a long shot. But yeah, I agree though. I think the biggest concern for me on this Real Madrid team is the lack of a true out and out like goal scoring striker.
Yeah.
It's certainly missing Benzema certainly shows. Has shown more in the league than this. They did get 3 goals in this match, but I think that's another kind of thing I'm keeping an eye on Real Madrid. It makes them a little bit less scary than normal for me.
Yeah, it does. If you guys haven't seen, if y'all listen to the Ripple Effect on Spotify, our guy James did a good episode on Ancelotti and his impact on Bellingham, and how Bellingham's kind of in Ancelotti's tenure, the next coming of Kaká, how he's going to kind of take over that role that Kaká had with Ancelotti at AC Milan. It's a really good listen, and it gives a lot of insight on the future of Bellingham's career. So go check that out. We might link it in the description if I remember. But moving on, Dylan, we are making great time. So you're going to have a little while to talk about this one. Our headline is Looney Tunes break the Parisian spirit. Dylan's guys up in the northeast of England really took it to PSG today. And it was spirits broken all over the pitch for PSG. Just like we all expected, Newcastle absolutely battered them at St. James's Park, and they move into the driver's seat in the group of death. So, Dylan, I'm going to hand this one over to you and let you give your unbiased opinion on the game.
It was incredibly shocking. Not that I didn't think we were in it or had a chance to win. I was texting you before the game. Vegas had it at like 50-50, which seems just wild in my head. But when I really broke it down, I did think it was pretty close to 50-50. But by no means did I expect a 4-1 absolute thrashing, especially without Joel Linton and Botman. I thought missing those two was going to play a huge impact. Just very physical presence from both of them. That being said, Jamal Lascelles, round of applause for you, lad. He was absolutely phenomenal. He was good on the weekend, but it was against Burnley, so I didn't want to get too excited by it. But he looked absolutely phenomenal pairing with Trippier on that right side of the defense. Really shutting down Mbappe. Like, as much as you are going to shut down Mbappe, at the end, they
Zero shots on goal for
out.
Mbappe. 0 shots on goal.
Yeah. There were 8 guys on Newcastle that had higher match ratings than Mbappe, which is just speaks to how dominant of a performance it really was from Newcastle. I was also pretty scared about Dembele or Colomboigny, whoever was playing on their right side going at Dan Burn. He looked a little shaky early on, but really settled into his own, had another awesome, fantastic goal. Getting two goals from 2 Geordie boys was pretty special. I know they seem to both score in big games at the same time. So getting it from both of them was pretty special. But the atmosphere looked just absolutely incredible. I thought it was awesome that the Golasso crew was actually in person.
Yeah.
And they had nothing but just incredible things to say about the atmosphere. And a lot of those folks have been at some pretty massive matches before. So I can't believe that going from relegation 2 years ago, staring relegation in the face 2 years ago, to beating PSG with Mbappe at home 4-1 is just absolutely insane. Obviously, money has been spent, but goal coming from Almiron, goal coming from
guys that have been on the roster previously.
Yeah, right. And one off from Dan Burn, who really would say, yes, money has been spent. There's no denying money is a big, big part of the turnaround, but absolute massive tip of the cap to Eddie Howe. It's incredible what he's been able to do with what he was given in the amount of time it's been. It's absolutely crazy.
Yeah, our guy at Simon NSD tweeted that under the previous ownership, really just 2 years ago, Newcastle might have ended up in the championship, and now they're playing Champions League.
We would have. Yeah. I can almost guarantee it.
Which is incredible.
It was grim. It was ugly. It was really bad. And just the way the club has turned around. And the biggest thing for me is I'm just so incredibly happy for the fans and the community. Just absolute football crazed community that has gone through some shit under Mike Ashley. So finally being able to be on this stage, before the match, people were just excited that oh my God, Mbappe's playing here. He might be the best player in the world and we get to go see him in person. And now it's turning into, we're not just playing them, we're absolutely dominating them. It's a crazy turn of events. And I'm so incredibly happy for all those fans in that community. I feel a little selfish re-jumping on the fan wagon in the last 3-4 years. Kind of avoided most of the Mike Ashley years, but it's awesome to see for them. It's like the Lions being good again.
Yeah,
seeing Newcastle and the Lions having turnarounds like this in the same year is a lot. It's awesome.
Some notes from this game that I thought were interesting. Speaking to the Golazo, Dylan, I know you weren't watching it. You were obviously just on your game, but they featured y'all's game by far the most, which is obviously they were there in person. You guys played extremely compact in this game. Y'all didn't take it out wide very much at all, which is normally a recipe for disaster in soccer. You want to, using the entire pitch creates space, but in this sense, it really worked out for y'all because y'all just really dominated them in the midfield. If y'all look at y'all's progressive passing charts, they were all y'all's progressive passes were started in the areas y'all were dominating, which was the midfield, and we're really successful going forward. Kieran Trippier with another. He didn't win man of the match technically, but He was
He's
y'all's
incredible.
engine with an X threat of 0.46, which was by far the highest in this game. And PSG had a 73% possession, but y'all just gave them no space to do anything with it. It was a very, very shallow 73% possession. So I will say, I think one key moment in this one was Dembele narrowly missing on his volley early on. Could have been a very different game if PSG had gone up on that, but alas, they didn't. So here we are with Newcastle in the driver's seat in the group of death.
The other thing I would love, real quick, you might even have a good way to pull this up. I would love to see the heat map for Newcastle as a whole, like the individual players or what have you. But knowing that we gave up so much possession, I would still bet that it was a pretty evenly dispersed heat map because we pressed the ever living shit out of them. So if there was just like player tracking to see how far we were pressing up the field, considering how little possession we have, that was absolutely incredible. And going into the game, all of the Newcastle fans, that's all we said we had to do was just press the living hell out of them because they don't get that ever. Like especially in League, teams sit back and try and defend, and how few goals can we give up against them instead of taking it to them. So I was super pleased to see the pressing, especially with how many injuries we have right now. I was a little worried about Isak having to press the whole game, or Gordon having to press the whole game, or Almiron, because we do have so many injuries. So that was really good to see. I'm incredibly pleased with the tactics that Eddie employed and the work rate from all our guys pressing. I think that was the biggest factor in the dominance, was the amount of pressing.
Yeah, I don't have y'all's total heat map, but y'all's average positioning shows a really high line. Lots of guys in the middle. Five Share? Who's number 5?
Yeah,
Share.
Yeah,
he was y'all's furthest back player and still kind of in a defensive midfielder position. So very high line, pressed PSG, and then really dominated the middle, like we said.
Almost got burned on it a couple times, but they held the lines pretty well. The one goal that they did get, we did get burned, but very impressed with Eddie's courage to really press the crap out of them when they have so much speed out wide like they do.
Yeah. The last game we're going to talk about slightly in depth is Royal Antwerp and Shakhtar, and our headline is Royal Collapse. Antwerp took a 2-0 lead going into half, and Shakhtar's second half hat trick sunk the Belgian champions. And Toby Alderweireld missed the goal completely on a PK in the 7th minute of stoppage time, which would have equalized. I don't know how having a central defender taking PKs is going to work out for most teams. There's only a handful of guys, I think, in the world that are defenders and really known for scoring those PKs. But goals in the 48th, 71st, and 76th minute for Shakhtar completed the comeback. One thing from watching the highlights of this game, the extended highlights, Royal Antwerp lost this game more than Shakhtar won it. One of Shakhtar's goals was a keeper blunder. Another one was a defender blunder. So a really disappointing collapse for Antwerp, who would have been really happy to win this game, even get a draw with the possibility of going into Europa and continuing to make that European money. So unfortunate for Antwerp. Elsewhere around the Champions League, Dylan, you just want to rotate reading these. Man City beat Leipzig.
I'm just super glad you didn't ask me to say a damn thing about Antwerp for Shakhtar. I love me some Shakhtar, but I didn't even register that game was going on today. So
I meant to
appreciate you taking over on that one.
I meant to take the slide off just as one we don't talk about in depth, but it was such a crazy game, I decided to leave it up. Elsewhere, Man City beat Leipzig 3-1 behind 2 goals and assist from Julian Alvarez. Foden was the one who got their other goal. So just another late win for Man City, but they were pretty convincing in this one.
Yeah, and Lazio survives for Celtic in Glasgow 2-1, 90th minute goal for Lazio to put them over the top. I believe, again, this was the same time as ours, so I wasn't watching, but I'm pretty sure, because I was following on my phone, because I had the over in this one. I'm pretty sure there was a VAR overturned goal for Celtic. Yep. I don't know if it was the right call or not, because like I said, I wasn't watching, but it looked like a pretty even match. If anything, I think Celtic may have been, it looks like statistically the better side, but Lazio survived and got a late winner.
Yeah, Celtic's been really unfortunate in the Champions League the past couple of years, playing pretty well. So moving on, Milan is still goalless in Group F after a draw versus Dortmund in Germany. This one is really what put you guys into the driver's seat, Dylan. I think if Milan had won this game, things would be looking a lot differently. You guys would still be high as hell on your win, obviously, but this really puts y'all in the driver's seat. So I know you and it's AC Milan too, which you're an Inter guy, so I'm sure you're happy.
And I like Dortmund, so yeah. I mean, I do think though Dortmund not being able to get a goal at home is a little telling and a little worrying.
No late heroics for Gio Reyna.
Yeah. Well, he's not even getting to play.
Yeah, I think he's playing with the U23s coming back from injury.
He was on the I know he was on the bench over the weekend. I don't know if he was on the bench today or not, but just not getting any run time. A little concerning. Hopefully he can get a move out in January if they don't start playing him, because by all accounts he's healthy and ready to go. So we'll see. But yeah, a little disappointed. Dortmund couldn't at least get a goal. AC Milan, it looks like, might just draw 0-0 in every single match, which would be hilarious, but frustrating for Pulisic and Musa, I'm sure.
Yep.
Red Star and Young Boys played to a 2-2 draw this morning. Well, morning, early afternoon, whatever. It was in the 12:45. I was more tuned in to the Atleti game, which was very exciting, very back and forth, high scoring. So I have nothing else on this other than they drew 2-2.
Yeah,
two teams that really probably aren't going to matter. It's probably more playing for getting into Europa.
Yeah,
I would guess.
That's the Atleti one is one I forgot to put on here because I had a slide for that game, but took it off. So Atleti did they won. Yeah, they won, right? Against Feyenoord, they did. It was a both the early games today were super exciting. Atleti, who really just performs really well in the Champions League, it seems. They're also performing well in La Liga right now, so Atleti's a danger side and takes control of their group, which we said might be a snooze fest. But then we looked at it again and decided it wouldn't, and this game was anything but a snooze fest. So,
really, Feyenoord should have come out with at least a draw.
Yeah,
in my opinion, I think they played the much more complete game.
Yeah.
Good old Newcastle Looney almost had an absolute worldie in the 90th minute to tie it. Keeper just nicked it wide, but I think Feyenoord is probably still. I mean, it's tough because they're sitting there with 3 points, and Lazio's got 4. I think Feyenoord has looked the better side, though, so I do still expect Feyenoord to squeeze out of that group.
Yep. And then lastly, Barcelona, less convincingly than a couple weeks ago, took control of their group with a 1-0 win. I think Robert Lewandowski went off with an injury early in the first half. Ferran Torres came on for him. Worth keeping an eye on that one, as he is the 3rd all-time leading goal scorer in the competition. But Barcelona looking like they are going to advance to the knockout stages. So good for them, I guess. They're not going to be in financial ruin. Although they might get be
kind of fun.
Yeah, they might get fucked criminally in court.
For bribing officials.
Yeah. Yep.
So speaking of bribing officials, though, were you watching this game at all? Or you were on Golasso, right?
Yeah, I was.
You weren't
watching? I went to the grocery store, then went to the gym, so I wasn't really in tune.
Did you happen to see the penalty that was overturned?
No, but I saw there was all about it on Twitter. The handball.
Was it correctly overturned or no?
I didn't see it. I just saw stills of it. I didn't see it in the play.
Because I was just curious, like, that would be really funny if they got some VAR luck in the middle of a bribing investigation. Because it was in like the 80th or 85th minute or something like that, I think, when it was only a 1-goal game at that point. So that would have been pretty ironic. But yeah, it looks like they survived, advanced, and will probably win that group. Yep. I'd be stunned if they didn't.
Yeah. Anything else from this week, Dylan?
No.
Nope.
Newcastle's going to win the group of death.
It's looking like it. Anyways, guys, we appreciate y'all watching as always. Like we said earlier, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, share it with your friends, give us a comment, and tell us your thoughts. Until later this week, we will see y'all next time, and have a good rest of your Wednesday/Thursday. Peace.